Basically, Hoyoverse designed every character with the power budget method. Now before we go in any deeper, you might ask, why is it important for me to know about this method? And to that I'll say, it's because this knowledge will prevent you from falling victim for these kind of videos, which might lead you to FOMOing on a character that you didn't really want in the first place. Okay, power budget can be described as a virtual currency that game devs use when designing a character. To give you a clear picture, if you have played an RPG game before, you'll know that when making your character, you'll have a set number of attribute points. And you can spread these attribute points over certain attributes such as strength, magic, agility, etc. Now, let's distribute the attribute points. If you put all of your attribute points onto strength and none on magic and agility, you're gonna get a warrior-esque character. Very good in combat, but poor with magic and speed. Similarly, if you maxed out in magic and leave none on strength and agility, you'll get a mage-like character. We can see here that by distributing the attribute points a certain way, we can make many character architectures. And this is exactly how characters in Genshin are made. To see how this is implemented in Genshin, let's use Xiangling as an example here. Okay, first in Genshin, the attributes can be summarized neatly to 3 categories: damage, support capabilities, and energy regeneration. Also, since Xiangling is a 4-star, we need to reduce her power budget a bit to maybe 80. This is a gacha game first and foremost. We don't want 4 stars to be stronger than a 5-star, do we? Okay, now let's distribute the points. Xiangling is an amazing off-field damage dealer, so there's gonna be a lot of points there, so let's say 50. Also, since her burst has good pyro application, her support capabilities are good too, so maybe another 20 there. But look, there's almost none left for energy. And this is exactly where Hoyo handicapped her. Her elemental skill is really slow at generating energy for her. Though her burst damage is really good, she can't easily get it because of how bad she is at generating particles. For a character that is deemed broken like Ayaka, her power budget is kinda spread like this: 80 on damage and 20 on energy. I mean, when you look at this, the 80 damage sounds very tempting, but you have to remember she gets most of her damage from her elemental burst, which costs 80 energy. Although her energy regen is better than Xiangling, you are still forced to run a dedicated cryo battery to funnel energy to her. And it is very important that you burst with Ayaka off cooldown, because if you don't, your team damage will tank. One more thing, usually characters with high damage points have strict requirements to achieve said damage. To explain this, let us look at Ayaka again. With how her burst works, if you don't play her in freeze and you don't properly group the enemies when you burst, she becomes pretty painful to play. And don't even start to mention the auto-targeting in this game. The amount of times I misguided her burst because of a wrong angle is very infuriating. To achieve the maximum damage output where a DPS can be deemed broken, requires certain boxes to be ticked. For Ayaka, it be consistent off-field hydro application, good grouping, and finally buffing. When you have access to more of these things, the higher your damage will be. If your favorite character power budget is predominantly or leans more towards the damage part, then this model will most likely apply to them. But why exactly? The answer is simple. It's to ensure that every other character that is not a DPS is useful. If a DPS character can do everything, then what's the purpose of pulling supports, right? Each proper support to a DPS will bring a DPS closer and closer to their max potential. By identifying what kind of supports that line up the most with what your DPS needs, you can then build a 4-character team that can maximize your DPS potential, whether it be a proper battery, a grouper, a healer, a shielder, elemental applicator, or a buffer. The formula is simple and straightforward. Find the attribute point distribution of your main DPS. From the power budget, usually the less energy your DPS generates and the less support capabilities they have, the higher the DPS. Next, find the requirements that your main DPS needs to do good damage, whether it is a grouper, an elemental applicator to enable reactions, a shielder, anything. And finally, find the proper supports that can fill said requirements. And voila, you've got yourself a team. It's that easy. The power budget method will always be relevant in this game and will be the go-to method in which the developer designed a character's kit. The game will make sure almost every character obey the power budget. When something is really good about a character, there's gonna be some things that are bad. Hoyoverse made a decision when they made the game that every character will be balanced around this power budget. But why exactly? Why is Hoyoverse so adamant on making sure that every character be at more or less the same power level? Isn't a perfectly balanced game boring? Well, I've seen people say that they can't nerf characters after release as that will imply the company is selling a false product. But I've tried finding sources for this and I've come up with nothing. Rather, from this line, Cognosphere reserves the right to modify, manage, control, or eliminate virtual currency and/or virtual goods in its sole discretion. If we count the characters as virtual goods, it seems to me that Hoyoverse have free control to do whatever they want. I believe the real reason is much more simple than that. You might think Hoyo doesn't really care about the play base by looking at how bad the anniversary rewards are every year, but they actually do care. When it affects their wallet, that is. Hoyoverse plans to run this game for 13 years. If there is power creep in the game, people won't roll on the characters that was power crap, which will hurt their revenue. By making sure that every character is more or less the same power level wise, you will be more willing to pull on more characters. Okay, picture these two situations. In the first situations, let's say there's two characters with very appealing design to you, but one power crap the other. And in the next situation, we have the same two characters whose design you like, but both have the same power level. You will be 100% more willing to pull both characters when they are at the same power level. By making every character the same more or less, you will subconsciously simplify your decision to pull. Rather than thinking, oh, I like both characters but A is so much stronger so I'll just pull him or her, you'd be thinking, oh, I like both characters, well, why not just pull both? So, in the end, it's a win-win situation for Hoyoverse because they could entice you to pull more without having to power creep characters. The power budget method was a design choice made to ensure the game's longevity, both service and monetary-wise. Personally, I think it's fine that Hoyo made it that way. I love this game and want to keep playing it for the foreseeable future. And if a perfectly balanced game is what I have to pay for that to happen, then in my opinion, it's a cheap price to pay for. Thanks for watching, guys. I would be very grateful if you guys can leave a like and a comment and maybe consider subscribing, because you can always unsubscribe whenever you like. I have quite a bit of videos planned out, but this video will take quite a bit of time to make and edit, so subscribe so you don't miss them. Bye bye.